Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise, and this is 10 to Life, where we are talking all things true crime. So if you are brand new and stopping by for the first time, welcome, and I hope you enjoy today's case coverage. And for all of my returning 10 to Lifers, welcome back. So happy to have you guys here, and I am just digging this new setup. I just have to say, I am feeling way up close and personal with you guys, which I feel like that's how we used to be months and months ago. So I'm glad we're back at our roots here, because it just feels better. Feels like we're having a good conversation. The case we're talking about today is one that has actually been highly recommended and requested from so many of you viewers, and it's the case of Kamarie Holland. Now, not many people have been covering this case, and we see that a lot when it tends to be a more sensitive or disturbing case. A lot of the times people kind of start to shy away from it. I personally have the belief that that's almost all the more reason why we should cover that on this channel, because somebody needs to and hopefully get some sort of justice for these victims. So I just want to give you a little bit of a warning. I'm going to have some flashcards throughout the case video where I'm showing up certain words, because on these YouTube streets, there's certain words that they don't let me say. And unfortunately, this case has a lot of those words. It was a cold Monday morning in Columbus, Georgia. On December 13th, 2021, Christy Sipple was warm in bed with her 5-year-old daughter, Kamarie. She was suddenly startled awake around 3 a.m., but then after making sure that everybody was settled, she went back to sleep. And Christy has 3 sons and 1 daughter, 2 of which shared the same father, Kamarie Holland. Corey and Christy were separated, and Christy was having their 2 children over for a sleepover. However, when Christy woke back up around 6 a.m., she noticed that Kamarie was no longer in bed with her. So when stepping into the living room to find her, Christy saw that the front door was open, and Kamarie was nowhere to be seen. After 15 minutes of frantic searching, she decided to call 911, and she reported her daughter missing from their home at 1607 Bowman Street. But what happened to this 5-year-old little girl, and how did she vanish from the hours of 3 a.m. to 6 a.m.? And where could she possibly be now? So guys, let's jump right into it.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
Now, if you're thinking that this case sounds kind of familiar, I definitely agree. I see so many similarities between this case and the one that I previously reported on about the little girl, Kalia Guyton. And if you saw that video, you know how deeply disturbing that case is, and how it could also be very triggering for some people. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know that even though the details of the Kalia case were really hard to hear, this one is equally hard to get through, if not harder. So please take that into consideration. But as I mentioned before, I feel that it is so important that we don't shy away from topics like this. Even though the information is uncomfortable, angering, and unfathomable at times, we need to honor these victims by not sugarcoating their story and what they went through. That being said, this case really does highlight the evil in this world, and how sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who can really hurt us the most. Kamarie Holland was a beautiful 5-year-old little girl. She had the cutest dark blonde brownish hair that hung in sweet little ringlets around her face, and her brown eyes and smile lit up every single photo taken of her. Her family called her Princess, because that's what she wanted to be when she grew up. Kamarie had just started preschool, where in her short time there, she was learning to write her name and was said to be very smart, sweet, and caring. Kamarie and her brother primarily lived with her father, Corey, in Phoenix, Alabama, right next to Columbus, but over the state lines. They had spent the night at their mother Christy's home on Sunday, December 12th. But after that 911 call was made in the morning of December 13th, the Columbus police put out a statewide missing persons alert for Kamarie Holland. They started working quickly, using all of their resources to try to find her, and surprisingly, one of these resources was actually able to pinpoint a suspect within just a few hours, something that we rarely see. Some reports say that they used footage from intersection cameras, and some say it was through cell phone records, actually, from Christy's cell phone. But whatever it was, the detectives' eyes were directed to a suspect now, towards a man named Jeremy Williams. Jeremy Williams is another example of a man who should have never been in contact with children. In the Kalia Gutton case, her killer, Michael Geiger, had just been released from prison after serving a 10-year sentence for kidnapping. Yet there he was, staying at a place with access to children. And just like Michael, Jeremy had a pretty disturbing past as well. Jeremy Williams is 37 years old, and in 2005 he was living in the state of Alaska, near the North Pole. His wife at the time was stationed there in the Air Force, and the two of them had a baby girl named Nadia. Now, tragically, Nadia passed away at only 1 month old, and her cause of death was blunt force trauma. Now, how could this happen to a 1-month baby girl? Who dies from blunt force trauma? Unless, of course, it's inflicted by your caretaker. The Air Force and the North Pole Police Department conducted their own investigation, but ultimately they didn't have enough evidence to charge Jeremy or the mother with anything regarding Nadia's death. And this is just astounding to me, because there were only 2 people capable of causing blunt force trauma to that baby girl. But because of what they were calling lack of evidence, they just didn't do anything about it. They just closed the case, and it was as if nothing ever happened. So if that isn't disturbing enough, that's not the end of the allegations towards Jeremy and him getting off the hook for it. In 2009, Jeremy was now living in Phoenix City, Alabama, right there on the border of where they were living in Columbus. And somehow he had guardianship of a 3-year-old boy. He was arrested and charged with aggravated abuse, where he allegedly immersed the lower half of this 3-year-old little boy into a pot of boiling water. And the water was said to be so hot that it caused serious injury to the child. However, when the trial took place, Jeremy was found not guilty by the jury due to, again, lack of evidence. So once again, he got away with hurting yet another baby. And you'd think that that would be it, but no. Jeremy moved from Phoenix all the way over then across state lines to Columbus, Georgia. And just 1 month prior to Kamarie going missing, Jeremy was charged with cruelty to children for an incident regarding his son, and he was currently out on bond. When the police caught wind of this new suspect of theirs, Jeremy Williams, they were led to a place where he was staying in Phoenix City, called the Bamboo Motel. The Georgia and Alabama police started working together, and when they arrived at the motel, the staff told them that Jeremy had just arrived there 30 minutes prior. When they located Jeremy in his room, he was promptly arrested. And I know it seems like this all escalated really quickly, but honestly, it's because it did. And the judge has actually issued a gag order now on this case, so a lot of information hasn't been made public yet. However, you know we love to sleuth over here at 10 to Life, so we were able to get our hands on some of this information for you. So they found out that that home of Jeremy that he used to live in back in Phoenix City was now abandoned. And I'm not sure if Jeremy told them this or when he was arrested, or if they just did some background research and figured it out, but something led them to this house. So less than 24 hours after being reported missing, 5-year-old Kamarie Holland was found dead inside Jeremy Williams' abandoned home. The details of Kamarie's death are absolutely horrifying. And one more warning before we get into them. I know sometimes it seems like the minute details don't matter, because at the end of the day, she was killed. But I think they do matter, because Kamarie had to suffer through all of this at only 5 years old. So the least that we can do as adults is listen to what happened so that the monster who inflicted these injuries and this brutal death isn't kept a secret or kept quiet and named for who he is. So first of all, since the house was abandoned, it was extremely cold inside of it because it was December. Kamarie was left alone in this abandoned, freezing cold house, and she had been strangled to death using a ligature, which means something else besides hands, such as a cord or shirt or something along those lines. And that also is somewhat reminiscent of the JonBenet Ramsey case, where I forget what the tool was that they had used. Somebody in the chat is going to know it here or in the comments, but it was, it's on the tip of my tongue, but I can't think of it. But she had been said to have been strangled with that. Now, what's worse is that the autopsy reported that there were signs of. And when Jeremy was arrested, he was charged with first-degree capital murder of a child under the age of 14, murder while committing abuse of a corpse, and child PORN. Because yes, to make matters even worse, this sick, deranged, evil man filmed everything. And there are some details in this that we're going to get to here in a minute too that just make you kind of set back and want to throw up a little bit. Now here is some of the press conference that was released immediately after his arrest video.
Columbus Police Department began working this case and did a lot of great work and developed Mr. Jeremy Tremaine Williams as a suspect in the kidnapping of Kamarie. We had received information that Mr. Williams had lived in Phoenix City at an address that was currently vacant. Agents went to that address, and it was at that time that we found the body of Kamarie Holland. She was deceased, and the manner of death at this time looks to be asphyxiation. It did appear from the scene that there was some abuse. He was placed in custody and has been charged with capital murder in Alabama.
The defendant in this case has been charged with a capital offense. Under Alabama law, that means that if he is convicted, he will be facing either life without parole or the death sentence. If the facts turn out to be as we are seeing them unfold, I have been speaking with Mr. Davis a lot on this case. This will be a case in which the death penalty will be sought if the facts continue to unfold as we're seeing them.
I know a little bit about Mr. Williams. He has several involvements in his past with children. He has a couple of cases where he was actually charged with abuse of children in Phoenix City or here by a sheriff's office here in 2009, and then he was acquitted by a jury in 12 of that case, and then he has been charged in Columbus as well of abuse of a child. In that case, I'm not sure of the outcome. And then we have information where he was a suspect in a 1-year-old death in Alaska, where he was a suspect but never charged because of not able to get enough evidence in that case. So I feel confident that we have the offender in custody, and that our work in this case and our autopsy at the state will produce enough evidence to get a conviction on Mr. Williams for the capital murder of Kamarie.
This is an early on investigation. Obvious reasons we cannot disclose a lot of details about it, but the number one priority is getting closure for this baby who was taken away from us at this time of year.
It started as a missing 5-year-old, and it's ended with the death of a 5-year-old. And I think every person from CPD that first took the report to the investigators that I had here last night will never forget this case.
So as you heard, the maximum penalty for these charges in Alabama and Georgia is the death penalty, which I think we can all agree doesn't even come close to what this monster actually deserves, but it's the best that we could get for something like this legally. Personally, I'd rather like to see something like, torture by an anthill and honey all over his body, or like something, I don't know, something to like make this man go through complete and utter torture. Like myself and probably most of you, the police had a lot of questions for Kamarie's mom, Christy, now. How did Kamarie end up with this man? Because up until this point, all the police had released was that Christy and Jeremy had some sort of relationship, but that the relationship was not romantic, yet also not necessarily a friendship. So the very next day, after Kamarie was found and Jeremy was arrested, Christy took boxes full of Kamarie's toys to a local toy drive for donations for Christmas. There, she was asked to participate in an interview with a local news station. So I'm going to play some of it, and then I'm going to share my thoughts with you.
Oh, she looked like such a sweet little girl.
She was a very sweet child. She was beautiful. Sweet soul.
So sorry for your loss.
Thank you. And this is I seen this and I touched my heart, so I stopped. That's what she was, Mommy. Let's help that, Mommy. She's like that.
Let me hold
She's
the
like that. She we were at the gas station one time and we seen a family out there, and one of the little girls didn't have shoes on, and she said, Mommy, we can help them, Mommy, because I have so many pair of shoes at home, Mommy. Let's give them my shoes, Mommy. I'm coping. I'm making it. The media's making me look like I'm some evil person, but I'm not. I'm a mommy, and I did not have nothing to do with this. She was my life. I lived for her daily. She was my only girl. I had 3 boys and her.
Oh, she your youngest?
She was no, I have one more under her. I have my son under her. And it's hard. It's hard. I don't know if I'm coming or I'm going, but I'm doing it. Ain't nobody on my side. They didn't even tell me about the balloon release today. They haven't even mentioned her funeral or nothing.
So will you get to decide that, or?
I don't think so. I think that's all Dad. Dad had custody of her.
Okay.
But you know what? I have my peace with her, and she's here in my heart, and that's all that matters.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I can't even fathom what you might be going through, but please know that our hearts and prayers are with you. And I know just at the station, we cover all kinds of news, but for whatever reason, just because of what happened, it has really hit hard for a lot of people.
And that's all you see over social media is her face. She was so loved. She was so loved.
Now she lived in Phoenix City.
Yes, she lived with Dad in Phoenix City, and she was with me. That Sunday I picked her up, and he prayed on her. I can't really talk about it. There's a gag order, so.
Okay, and we're not going to try to ask you to talk about that. Is her school doing anything?
I'm not sure. She was in school for literally 3 weeks and then got kicked out because of coronavirus. Somebody tested positive in class. So we decided not to send her back. But she was so smart. She was just learning how to spell her name. She'd see a K somewhere. She'd be like, Mom, that's K-A-M-A-R-I-E. She was the best little girl ever. So smart. She was fantastic. She was perfect.
Well, my heart aches for you. And please know our prayers are with you. I know Tony gave you her card.
Yes. I've dropped off some presents and I still have some more that I will bring, because that's what she would want.
That's
definitely
very
what
sweet
she
of you.
would want.
And is there anything that you want to say to our viewers about?
Life's short. Definitely keep your loved ones close. You never know when it's going to be the end. And I'm innocent. I had nothing to do with my daughter's disappearance or murder. I would never. She was my life.
Of course she was. She's your baby girl.
Exactly. Whoever could do that is just disturbing. Very sick in the head.
Obviously, whoever could do that is sick in the head. Yes, 100%. But doesn't her behavior seem kind of strange for someone who has just lost a child only 1 day prior? I don't know about you, but I've got children. And if my child was found strangled and essayed, I don't think that I would, not only would I not be able to get myself off the floor from crying and just from my heartbreak and grief, but how do you then speak to somebody for an interview? Then, on top of that, why are you packing up boxes full of her toys? She was literally just killed 24 hours ago. And many parents who have lost a child will keep their bedrooms, toys, clothes, and belongings untouched for a while after their death, sometimes even forever. And it seems to be a common part of the grieving process for parents to want to keep their child's things around. It's something comforting, it's something familiar. So it really doesn't make any sense to me that a grieving parent would gather up all of their child's toys to then go donate the next day after their murder, which we're going to talk about more here in just a few seconds here, so be patient. Now, I know that everybody grieves differently, but I personally think that this shows a lack of connection to Kamarie on Christy's part. And if you caught what she said about Kamarie's father having custody, that also raises some red flags. What could have caused Christy not to have full custody of her daughter, or at least 50-50, especially in Georgia where custody agreements are typically more favorable towards the mother? That is, unless, of course, the mother is considered unfit. By the looks of Christy's background, Unfit seems to be like a great word to describe her. Christy has 4 children, all of whom she has lost custody of. In 2018, she was charged with chemical endangerment of a child when her newborn son allegedly tested positive for amphetamines, the one starting with an M. She received an additional charge for that case, which is currently ongoing for failure to appear in court. In several other reports, it also states that she additionally exposed her unborn child to marijuana as well, and another charge relating to child endangerment. So as we can see, Christy was definitely not getting any sort of Mother of the Year trophy, any sort of award, any sort of accolades or praise. She was constantly putting her children at risk. However, she was granted supervised visitation. Now, I know that having a drug problem isn't synonymous with being an unloving parent, but it seems like putting drugs before her children wasn't something that she was above doing, and in fact, it seemed to be a pattern. So, if she was only supposed to have supervised visits, then why was Kamarie with her that night? Kamarie's father explains that on Sunday, December 12th, he was with his children in his home, and he heard a knock on the door. He saw that it was Christy, and he said that he wasn't going to answer the door, but that Kamarie saw her mother and then ran and excitedly opened it. She was giving her mom hugs and kisses and was obviously very happy to see her. So Corey let them spend some time together, along with their son that they share as well. Corey goes on to explain that he was in his room when Kamarie runs in and says that she was going to spend the night at mommy's house, and then gave him a kiss. So even though he knew that that went against the court order, and he didn't really want to let Kamarie go, he said how excited Kamarie was and figured that it would be okay for just one night. Especially, it's like the holidays are right around the corner. Your 5-year-old daughter is so excited. How do you tell her no if you're feeling trusting? I understand where he felt conflicted here. And he said that Christy looked fine, which I'm assuming that she didn't look high, it didn't look like she had been using recently, and that he felt a little bit more comfortable than maybe he had in the past or he would otherwise. So he told Christy that if she was going to take Kamarie, she needed to take their son too, which Christy had no intentions of doing. And she was frustrated by that because it wasn't part of her plan. But she ended up leaving with both of their children for the night. And that would be the last time that Corey would see his sweet princess Kamarie. So we know that something happened in the time between Kamarie arriving at her mother's home and then ending up killed in Jeremy's abandoned house. Obviously, the police were not buying that Christy just woke up and her front door was open and her 5-year-old daughter was missing. Detectives were able to obtain information, assumed to be phone records and witness accounts, that Jeremy and Christy knew each other. And like I said before, they weren't in a relationship and they weren't really friends. So what was their connection to each other was still a little unclear. We are going to talk about that shortly here. Since there's a gag order, we don't exactly know what that relationship was yet. But many people in the true crime community, as well as various credible journalists, have speculated that Jeremy was either her dealer, her PIMP, or both. The day after Kamarie was found, the community got together to hold a balloon releasing ceremony for her family in honor of their little girl. Now, I don't know if I would say surprisingly, but Christy was not invited. She stated in the interview that nobody is on her side. Now, if she was a loving mother who people trusted, whose family knew that, she could never be involved in something like this and who they empathized with, then why wouldn't anyone want her to come to the ceremony for her daughter? Just over a week later, Kamarie was laid to rest and family and friends from the community gathered to remember her life. At her funeral, her father Corey said, "Kamarie meant the world to me. I will never be the same. I guess all of my friends and family will keep me strong, but Kamarie meant everything to me, and now she's gone." Christy did not attend the funeral, and it's just so crazy to me that even if the ex's side of the family didn't want her there, that she wouldn't have just gone anyway, that if she was so unwelcome, even if she couldn't be there front and center or give a eulogy or express her grief, that she wouldn't have at least stood on the sidelines to pay respects for her daughter. To me, it just seems like maybe she's too ashamed, and she knows that the people there sense that she maybe has more involvement than what was being made public at the time. And it kind of seems like that's the reason she also got rid of Kamarie's toy so quickly, because perhaps seeing her things everywhere caused her to feel more shame and possibly even guilt. In an unexpected turn of events, after Jeremy's arrest, a woman came forward and told police that she too was essayed by him on December 12th, that very day before Kamarie was found. And the details of this encounter are astonishing, but also equally disturbing. So she says that on Saturday, December 11th, she didn't have a place to stay, and that a friend of hers gave her Jeremy's number. He told her that she could come and stay there, but she says that when she got there and she got inside, his house felt very uncomfortable. She said he took her cell phone and drove her to his abandoned house and then pushed something in front of the door so that she couldn't leave. After that, she claims that he did some of this, all while calling her by the name Kamarie. When the essay was over, he told this woman that Kamarie was a 5-year-old little girl that he had taught to perform oral sex and was bragging about things that he did to her. Now remember, this is the day prior to Kamarie's supposed disappearance. The coroner did state when Kamarie was found that because the abandoned house was so cold, the time of death was not able to be determined because her body was pretty much frozen. So could Jeremy have abused Kamarie in other instances before December 13th, or was Kamarie actually already dead in another room in the house where the woman was being essayed? And then Christy just lied about when she went missing in the middle of the night. Maybe Christy took Kamarie immediately to Jeremy's house after picking her up from her dad's house. Like I said, this account by this woman is alleged, but the woman did say that after her attack, she was pleading for her life and that he took her to a gas station to let her use the bathroom. Apparently he kept her phone, but while she was inside, she was able to get someone to help her, and then apparently he left her there once he realized that she was talking to other people. I'm sure if this allegation can be corroborated or has evidence, it will absolutely come up in the trial for Kamarie's death, and hopefully this woman can get some justice as well. 2 weeks after Jeremy's arrest, on December 27th, police had gathered enough evidence to charge Christy for involvement in what happened to Kamarie as well. In the warrant for her arrest, one charge of sex trafficking alleges that Christy agreed with another person to pay her for having sexual intercourse and with her minor child. And if that's not bad enough, Christy has also been charged with the exact same counts that Jeremy has been charged with. I was able to get a copy of her indictment, and she is charged with kidnapping, first degree, sex trafficking, and first degree murder. So I was thinking that if Christy was paid by Jeremy to essay her daughter, then she would be charged with those charges and possibly even conspiracy to commit murder or something like that. But the fact that she is charged with the exact same counts as Jeremy leads me and others to believe that Christy was possibly in that video that I mentioned earlier, or that somehow it was made clear that she was present during everything that happened to Kamarie, because she wasn't just charged with conspiracy to commit or with helping, she was charged with first degree. It's absolutely disgusting to think about it when you really stop and think about that. But it does kind of make sense now why Christy just showed up without warning to only take Kamarie with her and not her other son. So I know I said in the video earlier about baby Kalia, but as bad as it sounds, I really do hope that Jeremy killed Kamarie before he essayed her. I hope that she didn't have to experience that kind of violation and pain and just being an innocent and helpless child experiencing all of that. Because it absolutely breaks my heart thinking that Kamarie could have been there suffering as all of this is being inflicted on her while her mom was in the room, wondering why her mom wasn't helping or protecting her. It's a place that your mind doesn't even want to go. The indictments just took place for Jeremy and Christy at the beginning of April 2022. For whatever reason, Christy waived her right to appear at the arraignment, and she entered a plea of not guilty. Now, she probably didn't want to show her face, knowing what she did. Again, a sign of guilt and shame. But this next part seriously has my blood boiling. At Jeremy's court appearance, he pled not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. You guys, seriously, this guy is just such a coward and such a disgusting, low-life human being because he now wants to yet again dodge the legal system and not take any accountability or be held responsible or be punished for what he has done. He knows he can't just say he didn't do it because this sick, twisted a-hole filmed himself. So he can't get off the hook from that. So now he has to go and take the crazy route, which I think we can all agree, yes, he's got to be crazy to some sort of degree, but he's also barbaric, the scum of the earth, demonic, and every other single word that you can think to describe him. I wish that I could think of a strong enough word to encompass all of the horribleness and evilness of Jeremy Williams. But just because he may be crazy, who knows, doesn't mean that he didn't know what he was doing. He took the time to not only plan it out, and he knows what's right and wrong, and he also took the time to set up a camera and film it. And he just figures that one way or another, there won't be enough evidence to stop him, because in the past, there apparently hasn't been. And I don't even know that they will be able to bring in those circumstances into this trial, since it doesn't directly tie into it, and because he was never charged, which that way, how do you even show a pattern if you can't bring that in and present it as a history or evidence? So he doesn't think that there's enough evidence to stop him, which is why he keeps inflicting this pain upon children. But that's until now. So thankfully, after all of this happened, Alaska has decided to reopen the case regarding Jeremy's daughter. Now, even though the crimes against Kamarie will at the very least lead to life in prison and, hopefully, the death penalty, the other people that he has hurt also deserve justice too, and he needs to be dragged for every single thing that he has done to each and every one of his victims. So that's where we are now with this case. The prosecution has said that they are ready for trial, and the DA says that they already have all of the evidence and witnesses that they need. So I'm sure that whatever is on that video that Jeremy made will be enough evidence to convict both the mother, Christy, and Jeremy. Usually it takes much longer for the state to gather everything because they need to feel confident that they will win the case. But it seems like there is absolutely no doubt in their mind on this one. The defense has actually even complained that there hasn't been enough time for discovery, but regardless, it's going to be a little while before we see a trial happen. The DA did say that this case will be made a priority, but there are so many cases backed up due to COVID that we're just going to have to wait. And I know it's frustrating for some of us when there is a gag order in place because we want to know all of the details, but the prosecution said that it's because the judge wants to keep this case as tight and as smooth as possible so that nothing is muddied by the media and news outlets, possibly tainting the case with any sort of misinformation. So while we have to wait, probably until well after August, which is the next court appearance, at least Christy and Jeremy will be right where they belong, because they are being held without bond. I know this case was a really tough one to listen to, and I said it before, but it does remind me so much of the Kalia Guyton case. Even though there hasn't been formal charges made against her parents, it does seem like drugs and money cause some people to lose sight of their duty to protect their children. It's almost unbearable to know that this type of thing happens to babies all over the world. In a statement from Kamarie's dad, Corey, he said, "I will never forget you, princess. I will forever keep you relevant in this life." And I think it's so important that we try to keep Kamarie and all of these victims that we talk about relevant in this life. So often we hear stories like this and then move on with our lives and forget about the families who will have to suffer from their loss every single day. By telling Kamarie's story, we can shine light on the system failures that allow this kind of thing to happen repeatedly in a lot of instances. With all of the things that Jeremy has done in the past, he should have been put in prison a long time ago and not even been given the opportunity to even know who Kamarie was. I'm also sure that at some point, CPS was involved in Kamarie's home life due to her mother's drug use. Even though there was a custody agreement in place, could more have been done to keep the kids safe from her? After Kamarie was found dead, Corey's youngest son was taken by CPS, which is probably common for situations like these. I feel like Corey was just doing what he thought was right and was giving his children's mother the benefit of the doubt. He didn't want to see his little princess Kamarie disappointed, and I can't imagine the guilt that he must be dealing with now. Even though the decision to let her go with her ended horribly wrong, you can tell that he is a loving father, and I hope that he is able to get his son back so they can start healing as a family together. The weight that Corey must be carrying on his shoulders, I can't even begin to imagine. It's my belief that what happened here is that Christy had every intention of going over to Corey's house, picking up Kamarie that day, not her son, and giving her to Jeremy as an exchange for something. Perhaps she owed a debt, perhaps she wanted drugs, perhaps she herself got off on it, who knows, but I think that there was something very strategic. And then I think she made up the whole story of waking up at 3 a.m., seeing all of the kids safely in bed, and then going back to sleep, and then waking up to Kamarie being gone. I think that that was the planned excuse. And it will be very interesting to find out if she was on that video, because that means that she was not only present for the attack, the SA, and the murder, but it also shows that she was most certainly complicit with it. So I will definitely keep you guys updated on this case and the trials as soon as more information comes in, as soon as arrest affidavits come out, discovery starts to trickle in here and there, because new details are emerging slowly, but they are coming. So I'm going to be following this one closely, and I will make sure to keep you guys updated. Thanks so much for tuning in with me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the case coverage. Please extend all of your thoughts and prayers in the comment section below for Corey and for all of Kamarie's family. I can't imagine the horrific feelings they must be dealing with and that unbearable loss and just knowing what she went through. And I just pray that she didn't suffer. I pray that all of that was post-mortem, because I just can't even begin to imagine not only her suffering through all of that, but if her mother was in fact there, her staring at her mother during this and her not doing anything to protect her. So please keep the family in your thoughts below. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. And until the next case, stay safe. Bye.